Welcome to Part-Time Permies. We will just give it a minute or two for people to arrive and things to get going. But if you're watching right now, you're watching after the show. And we'll see if we get some arrivals on this New Year's Eve. Give people a few minutes here as we settle in and bring up our own screen. Okay, so hopefully we get some joiners tonight. I know some people might have parties to go to, but it is still early. It's 8 o'clock Eastern time, and I think that might just be us joined in there through our computer. Or there might be one person in here watching in the background. So we'll see. It is getting warm in here, I'll give it that. Man, our fireplace definitely heats up this place.
Just reset the fire for the night. We've had it running most of the day because we've been home.
Yeah.
Actually got so hot, let it burn all the way out, and
just rebuilt it.
Just let it radiate from the
hot coals,
the stones, and the fireplace was providing enough heat.
Oh, but so still waiting for a few people to arrive here. We've got some plans on discussion today. Of course, we've been off for a week. We didn't do this last week, so we had Christmas Eve last week, so we were at family's house visiting and hoping everybody had a happy, Merry Christmas and has a Happy New Year. And still waiting to see if anyone joins in here. Do have a Herb of the Week discussion coming up, and if you're watching right now, that usually comes up about halfway through our discussion. But we do have a website with the Herb of the Week. If you'd like to check that out, you can go to a2kzoo2.wixsite.com. There's a link in the description below, and it'll have the Herb of the Week as cinnamon today. So do you think we have someone else in the room? We'll see if they join the chat here.
I don't know if cinnamon's an herb of the week. I think it's spice of the week.
It's the spice of the week. I did put that in there. I put herb in quotes. It is a plant, but it's probably spice of the week. But there's a lot of information on cinnamon and its uses. So we'll have that coming up. Looks like someone else is in the room, but we're gonna give it in a minute and see if we have anyone else join in. If you could just let me know if the sound works well, that would be helpful. Make sure we're on par for having a good show tonight. We had a fairly busy week this week.
It's been busy. Yeah.
We went over to Ann Arbor, Plymouth area to visit my family for Christmas, and came back and almost immediately had Mike's parents come up to visit us a few days after Christmas. So definitely a busy week this week. But we do have a couple people in here. No live chat going yet, but welcome. And we'll get to our main discussion on the Herb of the Week, Spice of the Week, whatever you want to call it, coming up down in a little bit. But I do want to say hello to the couple people in the room.
While we're waiting, I'm just going to finish my dinner.
We
were
rushing.
Just shot a video, so we're still eating dinner.
So. I think I ate the food in like 6 minutes. Or less. Yeah.
So this is pasta fagioli.
Yes.
That we are just ran a video, so look for that. I don't know when, is that, a few days?
Probably a little bit midweek, maybe Thursday or so. I'll get a video uploaded on how to make pasta fagioli, which is basically beans and pasta.
Beans and pasta.
So, we have a few people in there. Hi, Lois Ann Therapy, and hi, Dave. Happy New Year to everybody. So, a couple people in chat, and there's a couple people watching. And yeah, so I hope everybody had a good Christmas as well. We were just chatting about ahead of time that we ended up driving across the state in the snow. It was snowing pretty hard.
On the way home,
Especially,
Christmas Day, we were there for a day and a half or so,
yeah.
and we came back on Christmas Day. Yeah, it was snowing very heavily for about half of it. So roads weren't terrible, but it was near whiteout, so we took it a little easy,
a little slower. Yeah. So I hope everybody had safe travels if they were going anywhere over the holiday, because that was a little crazy. And it's been snowing most of the week.
Almost every day we've had some level of snow, and there's been more snow in other areas. But
yeah, I think most of it's a little bit north of us.
We've had almost a foot over about the last 7-day span or so.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think we're due. There's a band coming through, I think.
Tonight,
another few inches.
Yeah, so...
From what I was hearing, I think
you're gonna check
before midnight.
Yeah, well, we did get a couple inches since or about an inch.
Yeah, we got about
plowed.
2 inches today.
Yeah.
Little squall. There was a lot more even. I went across town.
Yeah.
The other side, just north of us, had about 4 inches and some accidents and...
Yeah.
I'll probably plow tomorrow after this next batch comes through. I'll plow again.
Yeah, the 94 was actually closed near us, just west of us, because of some accidents.
Oh yeah, it's coming right upon us.
Oh boy.
So
yep,
it's right over the lake right now. So Holland, Grand Rapids, Holland, all the way down south of South Bend.
It's getting hit.
Are all just getting hit right now, and we're probably an hour or two out. So.
Yeah. Happy New Year, Sutton's Days. Yeah, we're celebrating tonight. We skipped last week because we went to the other side of the state, and we're back.
Or two.
Yeah.
Sutton Days they're up north by Holland, right?
Sutton's Days, no. You guys are the east side of the state, but further north, I want to say. I'm forgetting exactly where. And Lois Ann, I want to say, is on the way up to Marquette, north of Holland. Is that right? Because I know you've had some walks on the beach, so in the winter. Saw some of that on your videos. Dave, not sure where you're at. If you'd like to put on here. Yeah, Sutton stays on the east side.
All right, well, you don't have any snow coming yet. Well, not this one.
Not this one yet. This might be lake effect, though.
No, this is weird. It's like a
weird,
because we got lake effect yesterday. It was like fingers. You could watch it coming off the lake all day, and some of the fingers hit us and some didn't.
Yeah.
Today it's a big band that's just moving across. Well, it's not real wide, but it looks like we're going to get a little something.
Yeah. So that 1870s homestead is going to have a live show tomorrow, right? Your very first YouTube show. So be on the lookout for them as well. They are starting off 2018 with their first video on YouTube. So, and they have a good Instagram page that I follow. But anyway, yeah, so you've been busy. Your parents came up primarily so your dad could help you with construction. As well, right?
North of Muskegon. Well, they had the big 31 accident with 50 or 60 cars a couple days ago. Yeah.
So, but
that's a good video. You want to see live video. There's somebody that's got 1 million hits already that was sitting in a car while they get hit 3 times, and they watched about 12 other cars come shooting into the snowbank next to them.
Do we really need to watch them?
Well, nobody seemed too overly hurt, but it was, it was a pretty good one up north.
Yeah. So. But, and then, so 7 p.m. tomorrow, that 1870s homestead will be on live, their very first YouTube video being a live show. That is brave. Absolutely. But it'll be fun. Just to keep it relaxed and you'll have fun with it. So
Dave's in Toronto at work. We like Canada.
Yes.
We're talking about heading back to Montreal again. Been to Toronto many times, but possibly
I haven't been as many as you have, I think, to Toronto. But I have a conference that happens every other year in Montreal. So, and that's in May. And the last time it happened, it seems to happen on my birthday. It's on my birthday again this year. So it is one of the best food cities if you like to go out to eat and experience good food and a variety of foods. It's one of the best foods to eat. It's probably in North America, right?
I think we talked about Montreal a few weeks ago on a live show.
Did we?
Yeah, I think so. We like Montreal. It's good.
So we might be going back. I don't know what we'll be doing for videos while I'm at the conference, but maybe we could do some food related things. What we could find in that area, and restaurant related. That would be fun. So anyway, so we have. I'm trying to see if we missed anyone. I think it's just chat between that 1870s homestead and Sutton Stays. Yep.
So what are everybody's plans for tonight? I know we're all kind of hanging out at home. It looks like a bunch of us. Any special plans going on at home, or any special food tonight? That's kind of
or are we
my category.
Yeah, your food. Definitely. I'm growing, you're cooking. Yeah, what is your New Year's Eve tradition food wise? We don't really have one. We
don't have a specific tradition now.
No. Our tradition might be well, we used to go out to the chef parties.
Yeah, more often I've worked most New Year's Eves.
Yeah.
So. We used to hang out at Cindy's house with her family, and our friend Sean, my roommate from college.
That's right.
Used to come over, I don't know, 3 or 4 years or more. We used to just hang out.
That was a while ago.
Yeah, that was after college for a number of years.
Because Sean is now in Australia.
Yeah.
Steak and shrimp for dinner.
That sounds good.
Surf and turf. That's really good.
My grandparents, my dad's side, and all their kind of extended family used to get together. The adults used to get together, and when I was in college, I would go sometimes. And they would do a fried food party. So they would make fresh onion rings, and then they would fry all kinds of seafood and whatever else you could buy. I think, there's more fried things available, but it was French fries and onion rings and shrimp and...
That would give me a stomachache.
It was all fried.
Oh, gosh. Talk about just before your New Year's resolutions.
Yeah.
Eat as bad as you can.
Something like that. And then it was, I don't know, it was margaritas or beer or whatever people wanted to drink. And
yeah.
Whatever, some of the old timers, cigars and cigarettes. So it was quite the healthful New Year's Eve.
Oh yeah, that sounds great.
But everybody liked it.
Lois Ann has the flu. Oh no, that seems to be going around. I'm sorry. I hope you feel better soon. Yeah, deep fried before the diet. That sounds like...
I don't know how that tradition came about. It really was my grandfather and...
That was your dad's side?
Dad's side.
Not the most
and
healthy
I want to say
side.
It was mostly my grandmother's relatives that all got together. And really it was for the adults. Only the adults did. The kids didn't come to that. So I would... I went a couple of years when I was up here in college and back around school. So... Because I was an adult at that point. But yeah.
So
I don't think that's going on anymore. They're all pretty old at this point, or not around anymore.
They're all scattered at this point for the most part. But yeah. So we don't. My family doesn't really have a food tradition on New Year's Eve. Our big tradition was just watching the ball drop on TV and maybe having a drink with it, and usually either beer or maybe a wine or something, but. Not usually sparkling.
Usually it was a good Michigan beer because that's what we do best.
Yeah, it was usually a Michigan beer. Some Oberon or not Oberon.
Not Oberon, not around.
Some Bell's is
Something
what I meant to say.
Usually. Yeah.
Unless we had leftover Oberon, probably not. So that's a summer beer.
We saw pictures. I just found out in Beer World that Oberon is sold in the winter. It's sold in Florida. That it's only sold during because it's supposed to be warm weather. It's only and where the sun's shining. They make it and sell it in Florida. Never knew that, and somebody told me that this week, and I said, "You're kidding me."
They make it here and sell
Well, they sell in and then I saw it on. I saw a picture of Oberon or Oberon keg in the last couple of days somewhere on internet, and I'm like, you know what? It must be true. So I don't know if they do in Texas. They just went down to Texas last year, so. Oberon can be had, but not in Michigan.
Which is silly, because that's where they make it. Just down the road from us here.
You got to have standards. Otherwise, you end up with
And I hear my other favorite Bell's drink might not be released. Smitten.
I don't know. I heard it was coming out of regular rotation, but I haven't heard. I haven't investigated.
That's a winter ale. And that's good.
Winter wheat ale. Yeah, that's pretty.
Speaking of drinks,
that's pretty nice stuff.
Yeah. Good evening, Fine Night World. Hello, hello. Happy New Year to you. Yeah, we were just talking about. We got on the topic, off the topic of food, and onto drinks. So.
Yep, it's exactly it. You gotta create demand by prohibiting the access. Well, I mean, on that note, their Hop Slam comes out in a week or so. That's their super fresh, super hoppy, super over the top.
That's too much.
It's really over the top. It's expensive. It's really expensive, and it's just really strong. So, yeah, that's coming out. So they've got all these. They're going into all these seasonals, but
yes.
But yeah,
1870s homestead. I agree. There is something else that can go into some nice drinks too, but not usually beer too much.
No, I don't think we're doing that.
No, and if you don't,
we like our cinnamon tea a lot.
We do like our cinnamon tea. In fact, I should probably after the show maybe I'll put a link below to my favorite cinnamon tea, which is actually black tea with cinnamon from Harney and Sons, which I drink a lot. I love the stuff. But yeah, cinnamon is our so-called herb of the week. I guess it's spice of the week this week. But I did do some research actually over the last 2 weeks, since I didn't do one last week, on cinnamon. And basically, if you want to see my summary, there is in the description a link to my blog, and that has the herb of the week listed there. And cinnamon is kind of interesting because it does have a lot of studies behind it, and it's been used all around the world for a long time. It was one of the most sought after spices by on the Silk Road, just all across Europe up to into Africa and then all the way east. It's grown. It's a tree or a bush, and it's grown in anywhere from like India and China over to Southeast Asia. Consume it daily. I love cinnamon. So yeah, I would agree that I almost always have it every day, but that's because it's in my favorite tea. I don't always have that tea every day, but a lot of times I do, especially this time of year, because it makes the room smell good too. But cinnamon itself has been used for medicinally for a while too. Obviously it has, I should start actually, if we're going down the page, I should start with culinary. Culinarily, it's used a lot. You can probably speak to that more than I can, but just from what I've looked up, it's in sauces, it's in desserts, it's in cereals and, you know, hot and cold cereals. It's in a lot of spice drinks.
Well, cinnamon's a preservative also. It's an antibacterial,
yeah.
So it's used in a lot of rubs and preservatives to keep items for long periods of time. But yeah, I mean, European-wise and American-wise, we tend to use it as a
dessert.
Sweet, as a sweet addition to spice things up. Either make them the oils to make them kind of hot, or just to make them richly flavored. So it goes into desserts. But around the world, it's more often used in savory items, soups and stews. So
sauces and curries.
Yeah, and sauces. It can be part of curries. Your like the masiman and the darker brown curries. And then you can move into in Africa, a lot of the meat dishes have it, and Greece, you have a little bit of cinnamon used and things like moussaka frequently. It's weird because as Americans, we're so used to having it as a sweet item, we associate sweet, and when we taste it as savory, sometimes it's kind of off-putting. It confuses our brains, and we have to get used to it being in other items.
Bless you. Yeah. So, and then, but then they also in hot toddies and in a whole
Morocco,
variety.
they make a what's it called, pastis, I think it is, or it's a like phyllo or fil de brick wrapped pastry shell, and it has braised and pulled chicken in it, and they dust the top with sugar and cinnamon. You want to talk about kind of blowing your mind and really messing with you, having sugar and cinnamon on the top of a chicken item. I understand it. I don't mind it, I can't say I really like it because it still messes me up whenever I eat it, especially the sugar, not the cinnamon so much. Yeah, some people put cinnamon in spaghetti sauce. People are very adamant about it. Either a little bit goes in there and it's okay, or they're very, very against it. I think as you move very far south in Italy, as you move into Sicily, because you have the influence of the trade of the spice routes, the Middle East, the Mediterranean, North Africa, the Moors, all those things.
Yeah.
This cinnamon does get used in some sauces and can go in some tomato sauces. So it's definitely there, and I've heard very prolonged arguments about
whether it's there
cinnamon.
or not.
But people do the same thing with oregano, whether you can put oregano in tomato sauces or not. A lot of people call it, they call it a weed. Only basil goes in there or whatever, and you should never put oregano in there. But if you talk to the Greeks, they love oregano.
Oh, yeah.
So, and you put in all kinds of stuff.
That'll have to be another spice we do, or
we like oregano. I put a little bit sometimes in my meat sauce. When I make a bolognese or a vodka sauce, I put a little in. I want it more robust. But if I'm just making a marinara, then I try and keep it mostly to the basil.
Yeah. But if we're going back to cinnamon and traditional medicinal uses, obviously it has a warming effect. I mean, if you're drinking anything with cinnamon on it, or even tasting something with cinnamon, it does have a warming effect. It's supposed to stimulate circulation, clear congestion, which you might need.
I'm just sneezy. I'm not congested.
It's a carminative, so anyone who's having gassy problems, it should help with that. Anti-diabetic. It's been used. There's actually quite a few studies showing that it has been useful in treating diabetes. They've looked at different parts of cinnamon along the and how it affects different pathways that have to do with breaking down sugar or preventing sugar from being absorbed and all of that. It's kind of interesting one. I even saw one study that said if you have weight-wise 15-to-1 carbs to cinnamon, that you don't spike your blood sugars, which was kind of interesting.
Yeah, I know there's definitely been diabetes studies on using cinnamon, because I follow that in some research chef things and some nutrition things. A bunch of articles looking at cinnamon as a balancer for diabetic and sugar issues. And I think there's a lot of evidence suggesting, it doesn't mean you can go out and eat a lot of sugar, it's just a help.
Yeah. But I wouldn't use it as an excuse to eat more carbs. But that helps block it. It sounds like it helps block it from being absorbed into the intestines. It helps the pancreas produce the insulin to break it down. It helps. It even helps restore the pancreatic cells that make insulin. So if they are starting to age and fall apart, basically, then people who are older do have a little higher chance of developing just age-related diabetes because of the pancreas just normal breaking down process. But cinnamon actually helps prevent some of that and restore some of those cells that make insulin. It also helps with other metabolic syndromes such as PCOS, or polycystic ovarian syndrome, which also can lead to imbalance of hormones, which lead to, one part of it is higher chance for diabetes with that as well, but it does seem to balance some of the hormones and things with that. And I'm actually realizing I have a typo in some of my stuff. Crams instead of cramps. Helps to regulate menstrual cramps, that is, not crams. I might go back and edit that. And normalizing effect on menstrual cycles. Helps relieve postpartum bleeding. Those are some of the traditional uses. The main ones that I saw studies on, now you have to kind of take the studies with a little bit of grain of salt, because there are some conflicting studies, but part of that probably has to do with there's multiple types of cinnamons. There's the cassia, which is the one that we get in the U.S. most, and then and the cassia is not really considered a true cinnamon. It has a stronger flavor to it and aroma to it. But the other one that is used is, I'm going to try not to murder the name of it, but Zeylanicum, I want to say. There's another name for it as well. But that one is what's considered the true cinnamon. The cassia is actually grown in China primarily, and the other one's grown. The true cinnamon is actually started in Sri Lanka and is moved into India a bit. So the other factors that can go into is if you grind cinnamon and you have a powder and you let it sit for a long time, it loses a lot of its effects. So it's better fresh or freshly ground at least, kind of like your ground pepper.
Well, any spices you want them
fresh.
Whole. When they're hard dried spices, you want them whole because they'll last a year or more.
Yeah.
Sometimes 2 or 3 years. Once you grind them, you have 3 to 6 months, and maybe even less if you're looking at some form of medical type thing. So you want to grind them. So
you lose a lot to the air, basically.
So we've talked about Vietnamese cinnamon. That's really good. I mean, flavor-wise, Vietnamese cinnamon's awesome. The Mexican cinnamons, a couple different things. So, of course, cinnamon is really the bark of a tree.
Yes,
so what you do is you actually score the bark.
It's the inner bark.
And you peel, the inner. So you can get it more. Some of the really flavorful stuff is soft, and it's thicker and less refined. It's cheap. If you go to some of the Asian stores or maybe even the Spanish stores, you can get some of these less refined ones, and they have amazing flavors. So they basically cut out the nice pieces and go into the intersections, and then they roll up naturally. And those nicest pieces get the most money, but it doesn't mean you can't get really good quality cinnamon that doesn't look as nice. The other thing that happens is cinnamon tends to cause indigestion for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Because it's a small particulate. People can get really bad heartburn from it that are prone to heartburn from other things, and so they'll avoid cinnamon. So there is a way to handle that. What you do is you steep the cinnamon, the chunk of bark or the peels. Steep the cinnamon either in water or into sugar syrup, and as it steeps, it pulls out a lot of that flavor into the liquid. Now you probably get most of the benefits of definitely the flavor. Yes. What happens is you don't have all that fine particle from a really finely ground wood, because you're basically eating a cellulose wood pulp, which is what causes a lot of the indigestion. So now you have a cinnamon oil and extract coming into it. You can work with that, and it many times will prevent people having much heartburn.
Yeah, they were talking about one of the warnings is if you have too much cinnamon, it can cause GI issues. It can cause kidney damage too, and it probably has to do with similar effects. So there are some warnings on not having too much. They even had a warning if you had way too much cinnamon, it could even cause a coma.
It must be a lot of cinnamon.
That would have to be a lot of cinnamon.
By the way, what I like to do if I make cinnamon ice cream, or think about rice pudding. If you steep whole pieces of cinnamon, you can put a lot of whole chunks of cinnamon in your rice pudding. It won't have the specks on top, but it will get a actually more pure, richer flavor of cinnamon, and then you can either leave them in there for garnish, or you can pull them out. So that's a really good way. If you're making cinnamon ice cream, steep your milk, or any of your custards, or steep your milk in the cinnamon, or make a sugar syrup and steep that. You can still add additional powdered cinnamon on top of that to intensify it or to leave the marks. But I would do that because you just get this really clean flavor.
Or you can drink the hot milk with cinnamon in it.
Yeah, and that really I think it supersedes the ground cinnamon if you can do that.
Hi, Preppy in Ohio and Noah's Ark. Did I miss anyone else? There have been some people joining in here. We're talking about cinnamon and its uses in food, a variety of foods, as well as medical uses, and it's been used traditionally for a long time for quite a number of things. And there have been, I've been talking mainly about the diabetic treatments having the most studies supporting that, and quite a number, human studies as well as animal studies and others. But it does seem to have effects on they're actually looking into anti-cancer effects in leukemia cells. No, that's just in cell lines. They've shown that there's multiple ways that they've shown decreases diabetes, but they've also shown that it reduces inflammation. So that actually helps in a whole variety of things. There's talk of and starting to do research on whether or not it decreases arthritis because of the reduced inflammation, certain types of arthritis, especially rheumatoid. And that probably wouldn't help with osteoarthritis because that's more of a wear and tear type. But also for cardiovascular disease and inflammation, things that lead into Alzheimer's and Parkinson's and multiple sclerosis that often have to do with inflammation processes as well. So there are actually quite a number of studies that are going in there, including for allergies as well, because there's inflammation that goes along with allergies. So, and the interesting thing is they're talking about it as a treatment for colitis and as well, but then again, you got to balance that out with that bark and the fibers and the bark being a little harsh, so probably the extracts work better in certain scenarios there.
Well, and you can get cinnamon oils, really nice purified cinnamon oils. Even food grade ones that are used for baking are probably pretty. May not know the exact concentration, but they're pretty available and inexpensive. Could be used for other activities. Yeah.
So I did link a few PDF articles. Some those are scientific journals and summaries. One of them is actually fairly, readable. The first one I link at the bottom there for the basically a review of the literature and the studies on cinnamon. It does get into quite a bit of detail, so if you're not medically oriented, some of those are a little too much detail probably, but it is interesting to see what they've actually supported the use for. I did not see a whole lot of the menstrual related studies except for related to PCOS and in metabolic syndromes in general. So it does look like it helps in weight loss and in preventing sugar spikes and diabetes and all of that. So there's a lot of different things that it's involved in, and it's probably one of my favorite flavors. So I might use it as an excuse to make myself some more cinnamon tea and drink more of it. We might have to restock ourselves on that one.
Yeah, cinnamon's definitely good. I know there's a few people that don't like cinnamon. But I think in general it's one of the more liked items.
And who can not like cinnamon rolls?
Cinnamon rolls. Cinnamon ice cream is one of my favorite ice creams.
Yeah. Anyway.
It's hard to find that sometimes.
So does anyone in here actually use cinnamon medicinally at all, or do you primarily use it in cooking? I see, most of the stuff that's come up is related to cooking, in applesauce, absolutely, in spaghetti sauce. 1870s Homestead said they substitute cardamom at times.
I love cardamom. Cardamom is amazing. That's also a sweet and savory application.
Yeah.
Spice. Also, there's two types of cardamom, by the way. There's a black cardamom, which is just amazing. It's this bigger, and then there's the green cardamom, which is our standard that's used in Scandinavian cuisine and for some of the sweet stuff. But black cardamom, it typically is dried under smoke in India, so it has a light smoky flavor, and that's used in stews. Might have cinnamon with it. I think that's incredible.
It's probably one of the reasons why I like Middle Eastern food so much too. I love the sauces and things in the Middle Eastern.
There's a lot more
India.
There's a lot more complexity and a lot more balancing.
A lot more spice.
But there's also a lot more use. I think the spices are being used as a constant and regular part of having a nutraceutical in cuisine, which we've kind of lost. Some people go back and say, well, because we have such a diverse cuisine and we have immigrants, and we kind of lost a lot of our native foods from wherever we ended up from. I think that it's possible, some people say, well, there's, everything sort of has an origin and a cure and a basis, and you need to keep it in balance. So to some degree that might be the case, but we've lost it in American cuisine, and so other places you got to pull from that. Mostly for the flavor and how it all balances out, but it may actually have some sort of homeostasis or balancing and long-term sort of maintenance health effects by integrating a lot, just like we're figuring out adding more greens and fibers, and basically if you eat fresh, that's a good enough start. But if you can
incorporate more herbs into your food.
Asian cuisine, all the ginger and turmeric and galangal and ginseng, which are, as regular food items, have to come partly from a medicinal background of why they're in there, but they taste good too.
Yeah, I mean, I did also see part of those reviews of the studies was one that it was brief mention of in China. They did a study on people who incorporated a lot more fresh herbs into their cooking versus those who did not, and compared diabetes rates. Now, they eat a lot of rice in China, right? So they have a lot of carbs, and those who had a lot more of the fresh herbs, including cinnamon, was in the list, but fresh herbs in their food had lower diabetic rates.
Well, there's something that suggests, if you go back to sort of we have desire certain foods, and that we potentially, when we really enjoy something, it's because we need it. We don't have enough of it, or so even if it's strong, we take small amounts. So that idea of creating foods around enjoyment may be somewhat self-preservation. There's a lot of ways to look at it. I mean, you look at a lot of cultures and how people cook. I really believe in cooking with a lot of fresh herbs. I think the flavors big and they're more subtle, but there are definitely health properties, even if it's just basic nutritional standards, by using fresh things. Certain cultures have gone to a lot of powders and a lot of sort of supplementals. Of course, a lot of the big food companies.
Okay, are we back? I lost the stream, but I think we might be back.
Something happened, but yep. There we go.
I think we're back. Yay! Okay, sorry about that. I don't know what that was, but the phone cut out.
I was thinking, so some of the food cuisines that I've worked with involve a lot of spice packets that are dry. Almost everything is based off of a dry spice, like an adobo or something, which would have traditionally been made in the home out of fresh and dry products. But it's basically salt, sugar, flavoring, MSG, and some general spices, and that there's a whole generation or two that have learned only to cook with these spices, and they feel like you need to have this Nestle product or this certain. It's not there's a variety
all these
of
premixes, but they're not fresh.
And they're seasoning, but they're most. And so when I teach culinary classes, I say that's great. That's your tradition. That's the flavor of your family. That's the flavor of your area, your nation. But you need to learn how to create it for yourself, so that one, it's way cheaper, and two, you can control it, what's in it, and you can make it your own. You can always get sugar, salt, fillers of powders and cornstarch and colors and MSG. You can put that in yourself if you want to, but you don't need to pay for that. You need to pay for the good stuff and figure it out. And so when you go back to other traditions that don't use really any of those sort of dry packet seasonings and everything's done fresh, it's amazing. And that's where you get the really incredible curries and some of the island cuisines and things that are developed, and they're just bursting with flavor because of the fresh, really the fresh herbs and the fresh thyme and ginger and different things are just incredible.
And Noah's Ark, I do get the no added MSG, but MSG is natural in some things, including in a lot of mushrooms and other foods. So if you're going fresh and natural, you do get some MSG.
Well, you get a lot of glutamates. They're not always monosodium glutamate.
Not always monosodium. You do have some monosodium in the mushrooms, though.
Oh, yeah.
But, yeah.
Well, and that's why. And there's it's a whole other topic for another week. Almost everything we do in cooking is to develop and enhance the glutamates. Sometimes it's free aminos, but we do all kinds of things to develop glutamates so that we make our food taste savory and satisfying. And so it is. But adding in a high portion of a chemical form, definitely people have a sensitivity and have issues with that sometimes. But the natural form is really not a problem because it's part of our aminos. So
yeah. So okay, Lois Ann's going. Have a good night, Lois Ann. Thanks for joining us. But so I mean that's basically all I have on cinnamon at this point, although you could probably write 100 recipes that include...
there's all kinds of stuff with cinnamon. Yeah. Oh, we used to call MSG, and almost no restaurants that I worked in used MSG for anything, and maybe a really specialty thing. We called it magic Asian seasoning crystals.
Oh, jeez. It is in a lot of Asian food.
Yeah,
it is in a lot of
magic Asian seasoning crystals. Makes it sound better.
Yeah,
great. But we didn't use it in any regularity. Occasionally on a curing of a meat item or something, that would be about that's about it. And even that was very sparingly.
Yeah. But anyway, it's making me crave a cinnamon drink.
Cinnamon spiced cat.
Cinnamon. I don't think he likes cinnamon. I have a feeling that's one thing that he won't go for. He has been recently begging for our food, which he didn't used to do. As long as he didn't use kitties. Yeah, no, we don't cook kitties.
Yeah, there's not enough meat on them, and there's too much hair. There's definitely not in line to be cooked at all.
You look at every animal as far as amount of meat on it.
We don't eat dogs either.
No, we don't eat dogs here.
They have lots of meat on them, but we don't eat them. So.
No. But as far as, if we're going to switch subject for a moment, videos, I did get a couple up earlier this week if you guys are interested. And last week, I should say, we finished up our holiday cooking series. That's all up on here. And of course, we're past the holidays, but there's lots of ideas for food if you ever need them in that whole series. There's, I think, 5 videos. And then we also have, I finally got a update on building or finishing our winterizing of the winter chicken coop. So that was a 2-day building project that I did earlier in the month when it was actually still warm, and finally got that up this last week, and I think I got one little holiday thing up going. But this next week coming, we did 2 videos today. In addition to this live video, we recorded 2 videos today. So we are going to join Liz Zorab's collaboration. If you guys don't know her, she's from Wales. She has her own YouTube channel as well, and she started a collaboration of your 5 homesteading goals for 2018. So, man, I got that coop done quick. No, I didn't do the whole coop. I just updated and winterized a little bit further. I actually made it so I could do deep bedding in that coop. So, but I did do it in 2 days. So I did I worked all day those 2 days on that. But yeah, so, and it was just in time because we got snow like a couple days after I finished it. And it was 60 degrees when I did it. But yeah, it was a bit of a job. But it wasn't cold when I did it. It was 60 degrees that weekend. It was the first weekend of December when I actually did it. So it was like in the 50s and almost
I was
around
moving
60.
leaves with the t-shirt on.
Yeah, exactly. It was warm.
One of those days.
It was our last warm weekend. And then, like, typical Michigan fashion, 2 days later we had snow.
We've plowed about 7 times since then. And
So,
I could have plowed more, but we don't plow every time we get a little bit of snow. So yeah, and probably plowing again in the morning.
And that 1870s homestead, yeah, I missed a silky egg the other day and had a starting to explode silky egg because it was frozen solid. But I will say, as far as eggs go, we were down to averaging like 1 a day until this week. And this week we're up to like 2 to 5 a day. So daylight is getting longer and the girls are finally starting to lay. I think I had a pullet eggs in there too. So have our first, some of our older young ones are starting to lay. But it was -10 last night and I still got 5 eggs today. So if you talk about cold, it's not necessarily the cold that affects the laying, it's actually the daylight.
They don't have any heat lamps on them.
They have no heat lamps.
They don't have any lights in the
We don't
right
have
now.
any supplemental lights on them. So we did lose our production this year because of that. But plus I was off in my timing. If you could have chicks in the early spring so that, and you time it right so that they start laying in August, they'll lay through the entire fall and they won't stop. So I usually try to replace 1/3 of our flock with new chicks, and so I have some eggs.
We had lights in our coop last year. I shut the power off on our barn shed for a few weeks because we're doing some renovations. And so I don't know exactly where the line goes from the house to the barn.
Yeah.
And the contractor was doing some digging, and I didn't want him to dig over it. And if he did, I didn't want him to get shocked because I think we got about 40 amps going out there. So
we did have some. What I had done is
so we now have the power back on, so
yeah.
we can put lights back in. That was just accidental.
Yeah.
That we didn't have them there.
But what I have in that coop are actually Christmas lights.
Yeah.
I have a couple strings of Christmas lights going along the interior roof line of the coop. So actually, if you watch that video on updating that coop and creating that deep bedding system in there, the lights actually go on at one point in that video. So I do have that set up. I haven't turned them on because the daylight's starting to expand anyway, and we're going to start getting eggs again, probably more than what we need anyway. So and if you think about it, chickens actually only are born with a certain number of eggs in their body. Like mammals, they only have a certain number of eggs, and they release one a day. For chickens, I was going to say one a month. That's humans. They release one a day, and or they can release more. In fact, the factory ones, they trick them into releasing more based on their lights turning on and off. But so if you actually have that light going through the fall and make them lay one a day, or probably 2/3 of the time anyway, through the fall, you're actually decreasing the number of years that you'll have them lay, because they only have a certain number. I've had them lay more than 2 years though. I don't even know how old my oldest girls are because they came with the house. I still have 2 left, and they're still laying. And they
pretty regularly too.
Fairly regular. They're slower. They're definitely slower than the others, but like probably 2-3 times a week at least. During the summer, they were laying pretty regularly, and they came with the house, and we moved into the house. Oh gosh, 4 years ago, almost 4 years ago now. So they've got to be 5-6 years old, because they're older than we've been here. So they will lay, but their highest production is from about 6 months to 2 years. And then after that, they definitely decrease the amount per bird.
Yeah,
per year.
we have a friend. I have a friend who's a farmer, who's a medium scale farmer that sells commercially
Pastured eggs. Yeah.
Pastured eggs, and he decided to go into a second year, which is kind of unheard of for farms to do that. He had high success. He's actually moving into his 3rd year with them. The problem is you end up feeding them through the slow times or when they stop laying. And for a farm, sometimes they decide they don't want to pay for that feed, but he's found it useful, so I'll have to check back in with him. But they're moving into year 3 or season 3 of laying with some of them. So, and
they provide all the chickens, the meat chickens, for the local hospital. Do they provide eggs for that hospital too, or no?
No,
yeah.
No, they do all the eggs.
Because our local hospital is trying to move towards.
They're buying local chicken and local egg. Yeah, they're moving towards 70% local food,
which is crazy, amazing, great.
It's very difficult.
It's hard.
I don't know what local is, if it's 50 or 75 or 100 miles, but however they define it, 70%. That's huge. So
yeah,
I'm friends with the chef. They're really pushing hard. So they're,
because that gets expensive on that type of scale.
It gets very expensive. So you can cut some decent deals, but to do small, now you really help the community as well as you help the health. So if you look at the big economics of it, it's not pricey. But if you look at it, it's a big commitment for a hospital to
keep everything local.
Budget into that framework. But yeah, it's amazing. So.
And this is a hospital that actually in the winter helps. Because in the main season, we have a farmer's market that actually has, is it 3 days of market? Plus, it has Saturday, Tuesday, Thursday markets.
Well, in the market system, they also have a Sunday market at a different location.
Right.
So they've got about 4 days a week.
And then that stops in the winter. So the hospital actually set up a small market in their atrium to keep things going on Tuesdays, which you sell pasta.
Yeah, I actually am one of about 10 vendors that are sort of a diversified group of people that are making things available to the community as well as the employees. Again, reinforcing quality food, fresh food, local food, so that they're living out that mission and making access to the people, really
Year
that
round.
work in or around the hospital, but anybody can walk in there. So that's a neat deal. I jumped in there. It's a great opportunity. Just wanted to get some marketing exposure. Believe it or not, I have pretty decent sales for Tuesday. I'm
Tuesday midday. We're talking like 10:30 to 2. So it
Yeah.
is over the lunch hour, which is great.
So it's not a huge amount of money, but who can make who can make any money on a market on Tuesdays? And it's a whole different group of people, so it's a good exposure for what I'm doing. So.
And then we have Saturday winter market that was extremely slow yesterday.
Oh yeah, it was
that
ridiculous.
was the worst.
Between the snow and the post New Year or heading on New Year's.
Yeah, post Christmas, heading into New Year, half the or 2/3 of the vendors seem to be on vacation.
I would say it was one of the only markets we've ever been to, market days, that was not profitable. We spent more money probably showing up. But we did it because we've committed to be there, and it's fine. I'm not worried. I had no expectations for it. So.
And we did. I mean, we did have some people who came back and bought some pasta. So
yeah, so that's fine.
Yeah,
it's not a big deal. It was within our expectations, but we know the winter's slow.
Yeah.
But it's being there consistently and being there for the full time, and people ditch out here and there, and that's a bad habit. So we want to make sure we're there.
Yeah, and make sure people know that we're there every week.
Because when one person comes and wants something from a purveyor, they're really disappointed when they're not there. And there were people even that came by yesterday looking for some people. And I appreciate that people took the holiday off. I think it's great. Some places close their businesses for the week. But, some people come by and they're like, oh, they're not here, and they came all the way out. So we want to make sure whenever possible we're there.
Yeah.
So you got, what, two other videos? You got the coop video up. We just shot... You shot a five goal video.
5 goal video, and we just shot a pasta fajoule video, which was dinner tonight. So I gotta get those edited. I'm probably gonna put the 5 goals. My goal is to put the 5 goals video up tomorrow. I'll probably edit it in the morning, so it might go up in the evening. So that should come up soon. So I would like input on that, because we put our 5 goals and some of the things we're going to be doing around here. But if you guys have input on like the types of videos you like to watch, we have tons of projects going on all the time. It's all food oriented, whether it's growing, harvesting, cooking, or
I've reframed 2 doors this week, which we did not take videos of. 2 salvage doors that I picked up, and have been building frames for a little renovation project. But that's sort of off topic. But so we weren't shooting video all week. But yeah, I'm involved in all kinds of other projects.
We had a lot of projects going, and that one we're not recording.
I've been remodeling all week, but that's work related, so it's not going into video.
Yeah, we weren't going to do anything related to the business in the video, but it was kind of interesting because you were able to salvage and basically upcycle.
I upcycled an $800 to $1,000 French door, exterior door, full glass fronts, for $50, and it cost me almost nothing other than a day to build the frame and get it put back in. I got a heavy steel door that's extra wide, like 42 inches wide, that was a salvage door.
For $60 or something?
$60. Had to build a frame for that. Had to put on all new hardware because the hardware's been damaged. And I'm almost done framing that in. So, our budgets are tight on this project. So, these are huge because doors and windows, we know, are crazy expensive. So we're putting our bigger money into the things where we need it, and we found a couple areas like these doors where I said, there's doors out there. I can go drive within the area, and I didn't have to go 30 miles or less on one of them, and less than 10 miles on the other one, and put a little bit of money in somebody's hand and threw them in the pickup truck. And
they would have probably been tossed out if no one purchased them. So Anyway, so we have a lot going on besides our videos, but I will try to get those 2 videos up. The first one hopefully tomorrow, because I am off tomorrow. I don't have to work. And then the second one will probably be later in the week, like Thursday or so.
Pasta to Coco, who was the
Coco Noel
winner.
Coco Noel. I don't know if you guys, any of you guys were in Two Family Homestead's auction for Rose at Wholesome Roots. But we donated pasta to that, and Coco Noel won that pasta. I don't think she's in tonight. I think she said she was busy.
Yep.
But
she donated a bunch of things herself to it.
But she and there was someone else who were going back and forth on that pasta. So yeah, that was sent out yesterday.
You should have just told them that you would.
I should have just driven it to her.
Should have just told them you'd take double the money, get the donations, and we would have sent an extra package out to the other person that was bidding it up. But
yeah.
But interestingly, Rose, we actually met her sort of accidentally. She was following us, and I think
I was
you were
following
her.
And then she started following us when the roads came here, because the roads went to her house.
And then we ran into her
at the Homesteaders of America.
And I think she recognized you. You didn't.
I recognized her.
Oh, you recognized her.
No, I
so
recognized
we actually
her voice.
met her. We gave her some. It was our second batch of demo pastas.
Yeah.
She actually got a couple of them.
Yeah. And I sent her some more. She doesn't know that yet because I don't think she's in this room. But I just sent her some more.
We actually met her in person. So so we threw in a little bit for that charity auction, and so that was good.
Yeah, so we did get some sent out yesterday, and hopefully once the renovations are done, we can set up a website.
Then we're gonna get websites up for We're not heavily promoting it to you guys. It's out there. If people want it, it's great. If you don't, not a big deal. It's just a side item. We end up cooking with it a lot because I have bits and pieces lying around, and
extras.
I'm running work-related projects, so sometimes I end up into other things. But
we have more work to do on that because we have to get the website up. We have to get a Facebook page up for the business.
I got tons of stuff.
But and I'm trying to.
I'll be busy all winter.
Yeah, collect pictures. I'm trying to collect pictures of the pasta so that we have that for the website and Facebook page. So so there's a whole nother project, business related, that we need to get going too.
We're kind of at that point. We're down to 3 minutes left.
Yeah, I think we're going to be wrapping it up here too because people are taking off. I get with the New Year's and everything. So Happy New Year. I'm assuming that's Lisa. And
we might actually turn the TV on TV, which we never do for 5 minutes.
I know, right?
I don't know. I heard that Dick Clark, non-Dick Clark, because he's not around anymore, right? Did he pass away?
Did he pass or did he just stop? I don't know.
Well, he had a stroke, but I think he passed away.
No,
anyway,
but
I don't know.
He started doing it again, though.
He did, but I think he passed away a couple years ago. Anyway, hopefully, I don't know.
Shows how much I keep up with.
I had heard that there's a couple country singers I heard that Sugarland has new stuff out and they're performing live, which is interesting. And the guy from Michigan, who's Ashley's friend? Is that Kane Brown?
He's not from Michigan. He's from Atlanta.
Who? Oh,
Kane Brown's from Atlanta.
I think he is. So.
Yeah.
Anyway, among other things in music that we like do like some of the country music, and so I just happened to hear on the radio driving over to the hardware store that there might actually be some decent content instead of total boredom on those shows. So
we might actually watch that and open a thing of local hard cider.
From Virtue, from Virtue. And
we don't get paid for this. We just like mentioning really good local stuff. So I hope you guys don't mind that. But if you ever want to find...
They're out in Fenville, just about 45 minutes from us.
Yeah, pretty much. If you find Virtue Cider... It is really good. Virtue Cider out of Fenville, Michigan. It's
hard cider.
It's hard cider. It's very good.
Done in the European style, so it tends not to be sweet. Yeah. It's dry. Some of it's an oak, so it's almost like handled like wine. It's amazing. It's really basically all Michigan apples or local, fairly local apples.
They keep it very local. They were talking about single farm apples.
They have 5 or 6. They may have more now. Actual farm, verified origin ciders.
Yeah.
So they actually name the farm on the bottle, which is very cool because that's something that's not untraditional in Europe and other things. We don't have that very much of that going on, and that's true artisan cider. So we're really excited that it's in our backyard and that they are really one of the best.
And the guy who is making the cider, he was a brewmaster at Goose Island
before they got bought out.
Yeah,
so.
And he has non-compete for.
I'm guessing.
Beer. I'm guessing. Okay. So he probably went cider.
So he's doing some of the most amazing cider in the country, and he's scaling it up for, it's commercially available, and I think they're going to be a big force. And he's got an awesome farm. And they have a farmer contracted, and awesome.
They have sheep, and they have pigs on the farm.
I think they were old spots, the English old spots. They were awesome pigs, and they're doing some permaculture. They were they were taking brush down with their goats or
sheep
with the sheep. Yeah. They were moving electric fences and taking down heavy brush areas with the sheep. So they're all definitely, they're not just making cider; they're doing stuff on the right track.
They are on rotational grazing, pigs and
very
sheep
cool.
and apples and hard cider. That's awesome. So if you want a really good a really good farm, as well as a farm that makes cider that supports other farms locally, they're a good one, and it's just really good cider. But anyway, guys, so, and I don't get paid to promote them at all, I swear. Them Harney, I'll put a link after the fact when I go to edit this. I'll put a link down below
for Harney teas. We talked about them. We like them.
You could get Harney teas on Amazon.com. So I'll put an Amazon. I am an Amazon affiliate, so I would get a small percentage back if you actually bought the Harney teas from that. But or anything else on Amazon when you click that link. But I'll link the hot cinnamon spice tea because that's really good. I want to say they have a chai tea as well.
They do. The chai is tasty. It's really good.
If you want to try some teas with cinnamon in it, those are two really good ones.
Cinnamon, by the way, is their #1 selling tea. I don't know if it's #1. Yeah, the hot cinnamon spice. Yep. I don't know if it's the #1 selling tea or the #1 selling flavored, but I think it's the #1 selling.
I think it is.
They have 1 to 2 drums only making hot cinnamon, basically where they put the cinnamon spice in and then they have to rotate. It looks like a big...
he got a tour of it.
I've been out there a couple of times, yeah.
They're in Connecticut.
Yeah, they're out in... up in New Milford, out in the middle of horse country. It's amazing out there. Yeah. But they basically, it looks like big dryers or tumblers. They tumble it until all the spices work in. The problem with the cinnamon oils are so strong you can't tumble anything else in it because it just permeates. You can't clean it.
Oh, wow, yeah.
But they have 1 or 2 drums that's all they tumble are their cinnamon varieties because they sell so much of it.
Yeah, and it's really good tea. So I will, when I go through and edit this, if you guys want to check back later, I will post a link to the hot cinnamon spice tea that I've mentioned a few times, and maybe a couple of other Harney teas because they're just really good teas. And otherwise, yeah, have your daily cinnamon in general. It sounds like it's supposed to be really good for your health and prevents diabetes and helps treat diabetes and helps with weight loss and helps with a whole lot of other things that they're have more preliminary research on. So
allegedly
there's some preliminary research. Well, the anti-inflammatory has a lot of research. Now how far that takes it is the next step on research, but a lot of studies on diabetes, so there seems to be a lot of proof on that one. But anyway, we'll say good night because it's just after 9 o'clock, and I know at 9 o'clock Eastern, so anyone from other time zones. I don't think we had any of our European or Australian friends tonight, so
no,
they would have already been in the New Year.
Sleeping, so.
Yep. Have a good night, everybody. It was fun. Have a happy New Year, and we will see you guys next week. Okay. Talk to you later, guys.
Bye.